So the truth tends to be a matter of perception, or is subjective. And that's how we go along. And sometimes things defy logic or reason. It's just that you hear what I'm telling you, especially when it comes to big powers. That's why I talked about the world order. The world order is not shaped by me. It is shaped by other people, other factors for us we have to follow. Let me pick one example I wanted to say. For what is happening in between us and Congo and within Congo and all the... And I'm raising this because every time, wherever I go, many people I meet, same questions keep coming up. I'm just talking about my personal experience. Others may be experiencing different things. I'm asked the same questions. I try to give the answers, but because I'm asked so many times, I try to give answers, same answers, but in a different way to see if the one asking, maybe who did not understand last time we met, by way of reframing or rephrasing what I'm answering, they may understand. But it keeps coming the same way. So what does this mean? And I want to build on that to give you an example. The problems between us, Rwanda and Congo, and happening in Eastern Congo, even if it involves other people. Now we are into it more than 20 years, between 20 and 25 years. And things keep happening of this kind we have today, almost in cycles, every 5 years. There's something like this, similar to this. 5 years, we have something. 5 years, we have something. Like the current situation we have was there 10 years ago, 2012. 2012, we had a similar situation. Handled differently, things different, but we had a similar thing, 10 years ago. So my question here is, look at what has happened. We have had a UN peacekeeping mission in Congo. Around that, for over 20 years. So it covers 10 years before that, and then the 10 years I have just said, that mark last year, 2022. So my question is, if diplomacy and politics have no problem, as I was suspecting, as I said, why would you have tens of thousands of peacekeepers in a place for over 20 years, costing tens of billions of dollars, and it keeps going. Nobody even says, wait, Because I think I suspected, if it is politics, if it is business, if it is diplomacy, if it is, normally what I would suspect would happen is people after time, they take stock. They say, wait a minute, 5 years we are running a mission. What are we achieving? What are we achieving? What are we getting for our money? What are we getting for the lives of our peacekeepers? Normally, stock would be taken, and there you can recalibrate or do things differently the way you want. But thing just keeps roaring and roaring and roaring and roaring, irrespective of what is happening. But I thought the mission had been created to try and address some of the issues in that country, for the benefit of the country, but also for the benefit of the neighbors who are affected. But that doesn't happen. As I have told you, what happened in 2012 happens in 2022. And still we are going. We are going. So what problem are we addressing in actual fact as the international community, which Rwanda is only a very tiny part of? What do we want to achieve? Of course, there are things I cannot blame those who want to help, even if they end up helping the wrong way. I think that's our political culture here. We don't start by blaming others. I think we start by blaming ourselves. That has helped us in a way. We look at ourselves before we talk about others. So if we find mistakes, if things can be corrected, then we can go ahead and make corrections. So I don't want to blame everything on the outside, because in the end, the outsiders, whether it is in Rwanda or in DRC or anywhere, they can do only so much. Even if sometimes there is a pretense that they can actually address our problems. No, I think there are two parts to it. There are those they can help, those parts they can help address, the problems they can help fix. There are others only the people of that country can fix. I mean, that's a fact. You cannot govern my country, you cannot govern Congo, you cannot govern any other country on their behalf, on our behalf. No. It would be a big mistake, which I hope maybe over the years I thought we could have learned something. So I wouldn't blame anybody for what is my problem that I need to fix, and blame somebody else for not being the one to fix it. That's, for us, a guiding principle. That's what we believe in. There are things for us to fix. There are things we can fix with the help of others, like I started with thanking the partnership we have with many of you. So really the question here begged is, today, it doesn't matter. It's as if we get lost in he said, he did, the other one said, he did, he said, and it goes on and on and on, except fixing the actual problem. And that's how sometimes you find people find the easy way. The easy way to fix it is put it on somebody's back and say, no, the problem is this one. In this case, the song I have heard repeated by the leaders of Congo, and sometimes others become even sympathetic and accompany that thinking by making pronouncements that it is Rwanda. This is why I'm saying, I think in the order we have today, in diplomacy and politics, the facts, the reasoning, the logic, the evidence doesn't matter. It's dead. But here, let me tell you something. Even for those who think they are doing that because they must protect, they must do what, and their interests, you are dead wrong, you are mistaken. Because, one, by continuing to do that, you encourage somebody to be unreasonable and not actually fix the problem they were supposed to fix. If you go to Kinshasa and blame Rwanda, like Kinshasa is saying, all you are doing is you are actually telling Kinshasa, you don't have to do anything. The problem is on the other side. We are going to fix that problem for you. We are going to raise that issue with those people whom you keep blaming, and we are here to accompany you. That is the first mistake. The second mistake is when you say you are pursuing your interests, it's a way of making sure you're on good terms with this one so that you fix your interests and they are catered for. The big mistake you are making is this person has dishonored dozens of agreements he has made with the people, and you think he's going to honor anything about you? If ever, including even last time, this last time we were in Bujumbura, we discussed, he was the president, the leader was there, and his entourage. We discussed things, it was in the open, he participated, we wrote a communique giving people a sense of what we discussed and the way forward. The communique is read, but the next day, the opposite communique is read in Kinshasa. Now, can you tell me that so many of us and others far away are so deaf and blind to these facts? So, how do you expect to address such a problem? We have told people publicly, openly, including those leaders, that, look, it's not enough. It has never worked anywhere. That you have problems, instead of fixing those problems or needing help to fix them, and you tell whoever is your friend to come and help to fix it, you run away from those problems and you just decide somebody somewhere else is the one to be held accountable for that. And the whole world gets fooled about it, and sometimes to the level that they make pronouncements that are not helpful. They say Rwanda has presence and activities in Eastern Congo. My answer to that has always been and continues to be, why would you think Rwanda has to be in Congo, Eastern Congo? Why? If you understand why, the way to get Rwanda out of this equation is by addressing that problem. We have had the FDLR story, these remnants of genocide perpetrators, for the last more or less a generation. Close to 30 years. It's not a fiction. It's not a myth. It's not anything created. It's a fact. So I tell people, before you even get an answer from me as to what activities we are in Congo or about or not, you have to answer me why this problem is there. Why anybody would fire artillery across our border and kill our people? Why FDLR in 2019 in November would cross the border and kill our people in Kinigi and elsewhere? You would have to answer me why. I'm not even asking you to come and help me fix that problem. When they get across the border, we fix it. But why don't we fix that problem from the source? Why? Why are people ambiguous? And it's like when the issue of FDLR comes up, when these questions are asked me, and when I'm answering, I raise issues of FDLR, it's like they want to escape. There is a story behind that maybe some of us don't understand. Does anyone in this world want to keep this FDLR story going forever? Maybe there are people who want to keep it going forever. Maybe there are people who don't even care. It's their right. I have no quarrel with those. But boy, you are joking if you think some of us, Rwandans, who know the story about them, will ever agree with you. Anyone thinking like that is just absolutely mistaken. It's about us. It's about our lives. It's about our story. It's about our history. It's about our identity. It's about our existence. And nobody in this world is the one responsible for us No, we are responsible for ourselves. There's no question about it. I keep repeating it, I say it again, because that's what it is. That's a fact. If we want to change the fact through diplomacy or through politics or through interests or through whatever, well, I can only do so much. But within my means, I will do everything that can be done to make sure that that story of FDLR and the genocide and which people play around with doesn't visit us again. The rest, we can keep massaging the problem and playing around with it, and I don't know what to do about it. You know, there are these reports you hear about, reports about there's something called a group of experts. They make reports. Those who task them, one day add something else they should look at, what I've just said. Can't the experts find out for us why this story of FDLR keeps going on? Why it has to wait until it even results into hate speech and killings and persecution that is going on currently? Can't they tell us the story? Who is behind the hate speech? Who is behind the killings? Who? What is the story of continued existence of FDLR? Some experts need to tell us if they are worth being called the name. I know they are actually worth it. They have the capacity. But again, it's the politics, it's the diplomacy. So somebody with full expertise and knowledge and skill is just, you know, as kids, I was taught by some, when we were young, at school, by Indian children who were going to school together in high school, how to fly kites. Kites, you know. So these experts are flown like kites. They just, no, I mean, sometimes the experts need to be experts and not be flown like kites.